Hello and welcome to the Two Robbies podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Arsenal give up their hold on first place by losing their first game at home this season with a 2-0 defeat to West Ham. Liverpool climbed to the top of the table at the halfway point of the season with a comfortable 2-0 win at Burnley. Manchester United need a Boxing Day miracle and get one in Rasmus Hojlund's late winner to secure a come-from-behind 3-2 win over Aston Villa. And Manchester City overcome some early game jet lag after their FIFA World Cup triumph and come back from a goal down to beat Everton 3-1 at Goodison Park. That's what we've got coming up in today's episode.
Okay, Mr. Mustoe, let's start at the Emirates. Arsenal chance to go top again. Leapfrog Liverpool as we go into the new year. Position they held at Christmas, I'm sure wanted to do it at the new year. But I have to say this one maybe didn't go to plan, or certainly didn't go to Mikel Arteta's plan. Having said that, and I think you talked about it on the broadcast, a lot of credit has to go to David Moyes, Robin, in what he does, the way he does it, and the way that this team play. But should we start with West Ham and give them a little bit of love because they won the game, and then talk about Arsenal? Would that be the right way to go? Yeah. I mean, one of my notes. I sort of was just watching, much more the second half of the game, in fairness than anything. But second half, there's something comfortable about West Ham out of possession on the halfway line. Everybody knows their role, good positions, ready to break, almost encouraging the opposition on. When they break, Rob, they've got good quality now, probably better quality than we've seen in the past. Kudos, Paquetá, Ward-Prowse, Bowen, people who can make things happen. And he's doing it in an unfashionable way. It's not, everybody wants possession now. Everybody wants front foot and high press and gegenpress. And, David Moyes has got his own little island. He's got his own little flag and he's doing it his own little way. Yeah. And guess what? He's sixth in the table doing it his own little way. Yeah.
It's exactly right, Rob. And he is very different to well, not most others, but kind of, I guess, the new wave of coaches. They're very thoughtful, they're very tactical coaches, and I like that. We've spoken highly about some of those guys. They deserve.
Sorry, Rob. Let me stop you. Let me stop you there on that point. The thoughtful and what was the other word? Inventive.
Tactical.
Coaches,
I think it's a tactical.
Tactical.
What I should have said is it open and expansive.
Doesn't thought and tactics?
No, I know.
Thought and tactics have to go into what he does. I think that's the argument, really, isn't it, with David Moyes?
Yeah, no, you're right. I guess bad words from me. I guess what I meant to say was open, expansive, attacking, proactive football. You know, and I'm not going to lie, I enjoy that. I enjoy a coach that's really trying to coach his team in a way where they're trying to figure out ways of breaking down opponents. No, David Moyes does it in a different way, and I think and I understand the value of that. I think the key is, Rob, and we thought we were going to get David Moyes at the end of the game, Rob. Just we have a little two-way interview. We had James Ward-Prowse, and it was great. Okay. But what I was going to say, the question I'd lined up for David Moyes was going to be something like, last year the team just never felt right. The vibe of it, the makeup of the team, the competition, the composition of it, the artisan soldiers part. This team really feels like it's perfectly suited now to David Moyes. He was never comfortable last year with Skamaka trying to come into the side and other players that had come in and didn't really do it. Paquetá, of course, now is maturing into a brilliant player on the left-hand side, and it's sad for West Ham fans to see him go off injured. But kudos, Rob. It only takes a couple of additions that just final pieces of the jigsaw a little bit. And I know that Mikel Antonio's to come back, but Jarrod Bowen playing as a central striker is a good fit. Kudos brings them a power and an acceleration and quality finishing that they've lacked a little bit. Ward-Prowse gives them the set pieces. He's got a ton of assists from that position right now, and a back four and a manager that knows how to defend. And you bring that all together, and I think he's sat there now like, this is what it feels like to get a team that I want. What are they, sixth in the league table right now? They jumped above Manchester United. That's a stunning victory at Arsenal, Robin. I think most people, I thought it'd be awkward for the Gunners, but I did still predict that Arsenal would come out on top by a single goal. But I'm not that surprised that West Ham, particularly when they scored the first goal, Rob, they're so hard to play through and get around the outside of.
Yeah. It's interesting. A couple of things I just want to pick up on what you said, that the artists and soldiers thing, which is really is sometimes, we look at David Moyes and probably think he'd rather go with more soldiers than artists because that's what he's used to. Tim tells us lots of stories about those great days at Everton and how they go about it. But I think he's understood Robbie's had to change. But what I think he's done, and it was, I think James Ward-Prowse alluded to it a little bit in one of his answers, is that if you're Paquetá, if you're Kudus, if you're Bowen, or maybe Bowen's a natural fit because of where he's come from and his personality, but there's no passengers anymore. There's no was it Payet? Payet was there, who used to be the artist, but he was like, you lot
Flaky.
do your work and then get it to me and then I'll play. I think where he's got the balance now is that those artists who are top class performers, Rob, and Paquetá, you'd have to say he's up there with some of the very best in the league. Yep. They have to put a shift in. They
Absolutely
have to get back. They have to have a position. They have to be, and that's where I think he's just worked the balance. And maybe that takes a year when a player comes in, and a new player, maybe a Brazilian player or a player who's played in Italy and that, who's been the guy who hasn't done that. And David Moyes is saying, well, in my team, you have to if we're going to be successful. And he does give them a bit of license when they go forward. But I just think it's that balance now of saying there's no definitive artists and soldiers. We'll all do the work, and then those players with a little bit more technical ability, I'll give you the freedom to go and make it play. And at the moment, it's proving a perfect sort of situation, perfect tactic for West Ham. And it might not be De Zerbi style, it might not be Ange style, but I'm telling you what, it's Moyes' style, and it's doing pretty well.
Well said, mate. I back that up 100%. And I'll finish off with this, Rob. I asked Ward-Prowse, we did get to speak to James Ward-Prowse, and I asked him, like, I remember when I played, and I kind of said this, probably bundle it a little bit, but it's like, when I remember when we played well, and we were on a run of form, when we were beating teams, and we were, like, feeling really, really good, I made a conscious note, what is it we're doing? Whether it's the closing down, whether it's the passing, whatever it was, to make sure I've got it written down somewhere. That's what we were doing when we played well, because I know for certain it's going to go bad, and then you can refer back to it. Well, are we working as hard? Are we playing whatever it is? I asked him if there's any keys that he thought, and I think that's what you're referring to. And he basically all he said was, it's hard work, and it seems simple, but that's where everything comes from. When teams play well, when the fans get on there, get behind them, and it all comes to helping them work hard. And that's what they are right now. They're very hard working side. You said it all, mate. I'm not going to add to it because two-way players is perfectly right. I think Paquetá is a great example of a super technical player. I mean, they've had four now. They've had Lanzini. He's had lots of players that, like you said, haven't quite wanted to do that. And when they all do that, it's pretty hard to play against. So with that, Rob, let's switch over to Arsenal now. And I'll give you a quick take from me, Rob, and I'll get your sense of it.
Okay.
I don't think it... for me, I think it's pretty obvious what I've said, and I think what I've certainly said about, in terms of the goals, and it's a little concerning that the likes of Jesus and Martinelli have just gone off the boil a little bit. No, I said today in the show, Rob, that right now that's kind of been covered up or countered by midfield players, and Odegaard and Trossard's got 3, I think it is. I think Declan Rice has got 3, Odegaard's got 4.
Yeah.
They got good numbers in there to help with that production from the front 3. I just don't. This was a tough game, and it's not the game to really, I don't think, go into that and say, look, what they need another striker, or is it, Rob, or was this when you saw Gabriel Jesus head it over from 6-7 yards out? Yeah, is it going to be the reason why they might not win it if they haven't got? I know. Last year, Saka and Martinelli scored a ton of goals, and Martinelli's gone off a little bit, and Jesus doesn't look like he's going to get a big number.
Yeah, I suppose that's the easy answer, Rob, and then it's like go and spend 75, 80 million, go and get Ivan Toney, and that heady chance he puts in the back of the net, and maybe we're different. But then maybe some of the build-up might not be quite as neat and controlled because maybe Ivan Toney isn't quite at that level. So you might get a little bit more goal set, you might lose. So I'm a little bit with you in terms of that. I don't think we can pile on. This is an Arsenal team that I always think goals are going to have to be spread. And talked about Havertz being an important part. He wasn't around today. He's come up with a couple of big moments
four
in recent games. He's got 4 goals. Yeah, well, which is a decent number again. I tell you what slightly kind of, I wouldn't say perturbed me, Rob, but I kind of got into the sense watching Arsenal in the second half, and I wondered if it was a sort of a David Moyes ploy, a little bit like, I wouldn't say they were predictable, but most of their attacks were quite similar, if you understand what I mean. It was like getting to a certain position, Odegaard wriggling out, can we go to byline, can we go... It was almost like West Ham were well set up to deal with it. And it was a bit like, I thought they lacked a little bit of imagination, creativity. Now, I don't know if that... Yeah, I don't know if that comes through a bit of tiredness, same players. I don't know if it's, players playing together who are not quite on form, so it isn't all it isn't like knitting together. Like last year, we'd see Martinelli coming in, hitting it off Jesus, getting 1-2s, going down the sides. I don't know, it just felt a bit stale, a bit like, I've read this book before and I don't think there's going to be a very good ending. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel like there was a bit of magic, that little bit of magic there that we've seen now. Listen, we're halfway through the season. They're very well placed and they're competitive. So I ain't going to go all the way. I just felt as though they got into a kind of one-dimensional way of trying to get back into the game, and I didn't really ever think it was going to work today.
I think what we can say is that so far, we're halfway through, the team that wins a title, Rob, it's not going to be like some of those dominant seasons before where you had huge points tallies because of different reasons.
Yeah, we're not getting 100 points this year.
No, it's not one of them where, we didn't, like draw is like losing a game. I mean, teams are going to slip up. They have totally slipped up. So the little points of detail that we're trying to say about Arsenal, if they get this, they get that, then all of a sudden, you can say that with all the teams, Rob. Man City particularly, Liverpool, they've got their own issues. So, I think if you're an Arsenal fan, that's not great today and it'll be frustrating. But I think you can comfort yourselves and nobody's perfect, by the way. And if it's not the goals from Arsenal, it might be the midfield of Liverpool. It might be the defensive side of things now for Manchester City. Nobody's perfect. So I just don't think, given the title situation and this game against a super tough West Ham United, I just don't think it's a time to jump on and be too critical for an Arsenal side that, of course, now they're going to want to bounce back and win the next few games. But they're right there, Rob, and nobody's perfect, and it wasn't their day today. And I think, to be fair, Arteta didn't really make too much of a fuss about it afterwards, Rob. He was pretty magnanimous in his comments. But we'll come back, Rob. If there's other games where they're lacking goals against different different scenarios in games, we'll get on it again,
What I would say, Rob, and we'll get to City in a minute, is that, the shadow's starting to come, innit? Despite them, wherever they are, they're back now. Yeah. It's Premier League football. They won a game, and we've got to see how people deal with that, how Arsenal deal with that, how Liverpool deal with that. That's what we'll see in the coming weeks. Talking of Liverpool, let's go to Turf Moor. Right. Never an easy place to go. I think Jurgen Klopp, a bit tongue-in-cheek, was asked about where you're going to be on I think it was Boxing Day or after Boxing Day, and he said, probably Liverpool, Turf Moor, a bit like, he knows what was going to come. It's never an easy game. His team got it done. Nunez with the first goal, Jota with his second. 2 important goal scorers, I think. Yeah. Rebecca had asked us before the game, we said, they've got to not just rely on Mo Salah, who's going to African Cup of Nations, could miss 4 or 5 games, depending on how well things go for Egypt in that competition. So Nunez with the first, Jota with the second. I had to sort of overcome a little spell in the second half where Burnley had a bit of a go with about 60 minutes on the clock. They were only 1-0 up. Liverpool had a couple of goals ruled out. And I think it's Munson, if I remember, had a really good chance on the far post, a header. Yeah. And he couldn't hit the target with it. And then Liverpool went on and got the winner through the more comfortable winner through Jota. But where are we with Liverpool, mate? And where they stand? They sit top of the table.
Yeah, by 2 points. They've got 2 points. Yeah.
Everybody's got a seems to be most people apart from Liverpool fans have got a reason why they aren't going to win it this year.
Well, that's it. That's it, isn't it? That's the kind of story of the season, Rob. For all these teams, the title race is like reasons why they can't win it. And even this game that was super comfortable for Liverpool. I mean, they should. I mean, the only thing I made a note at half time, maybe should have been more ruthless in the first half to score more goals, to put them away. Really, really comfortable. Second half
They had a
goes
couple
in.
disallowed, though, didn't they?
Yeah, some offside, wasn't it? I know Harvey Elliott.
Gakpo won, Harvey Elliott won with Salah in front.
Yeah, I mean, and my last note is still finding the best team, Rob. There's still he's still experimenting and still. I mean, there's some rotations in this game. Of course, Harvey Elliott started in midfield with Gravenberch. I mean, I gotta say, Luis Diaz is just a little bit off form, Rob. I got to think that Diogo Jota now, being fit again, comes on, scores the goal, really nicely taken goal.
Yeah.
Isn't he, and I'll throw it back to you, Rob, is he in the best front three for Liverpool? Because I feel like right now he is. I think he's a left-sided the guy. I think I'd prefer him on the left right now. I think I still prefer Darwin Nunez as the number 9 to start. And, of course, Mo Salah that is going to go away on the African Cup of Nations. And midfield, again, I still don't know whether Jurgen Klopp knows what his best midfield is. You know, Gravenberch, he's trying to get him some reps and trying to get him integrated in the way that Liverpool do things. But it's a comfortable victory. What do you think on that, Rob, in terms of where... I mean, they're sat top, you know, they're sat top like by a couple of points.
I thought... Do you know what I thought? And it does get caught out once or twice with the game being quick, but I thought Endo is starting to show me a little bit more, Rob, in midfield.
A little bit.
I'm not sure he's ever going to be... But at least I think he's getting reps and he's got half a season on his belt, and I think he's going to be better for that. The kid Kwanzaa's done okay again next to Virgil van Dijk, but at some point, Liverpool have to decide who's going to be Van Dijk's partner. Matip's out. Konate seems to be in and out. I don't know how much you can trust him with his body. He seems to not be able to run a game together. Gomez is playing left back at the moment because obviously Simicast and Robbie are out. So, you know, in every area, Rob, you're saying so. I think centre back still we need to.
Kwanzaa, Rob. Maybe Kwanzaa's the guy.
There.
Is Kwanzaa the guy then?
Yeah. Maybe, maybe they've got to give him a little run and find out. A bit like Everton have done with Brantwaite. And you know, maybe he can come through. He's good size, good athlete. Looks like he's got good temperament. So yeah, it is those questions that are asking, and I still again think these a bit more for Liverpool. I think there's a gear or two for them to go again. So if they can find that and they can go toe to toe, what I would say with Liverpool, and I said it a couple of weeks ago. They've been the distance once, Rob. They've been very close on a couple of occasions, but they've been the distance once against the City team. So they know what it takes to get there, and that might just be something that you know in their armoury that they can pull out later on. And you know when people talk about the pressure, I tend to feel Liverpool will feel it less than maybe Arsenal would do.
Quick line on Burnley, Rob, because I think that's 9 losses from the first 10 Premier League home games. 9 losses out of 10 at home. And there was a moment in the game, Rob, and where I'm thinking they're just not competitive against Liverpool. And due to that kind of a little bit passively against Liverpool, the stadium was flat. Did you make it? Did you sense that?
We did. Yeah, we did say something, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
a flat turf moor is not a good turf moor for a Burnley team.
Yeah, and I you know, they ask more questions, put them under a little bit more pressure. I think the second half, Rob, there was a little better, where they engaged Liverpool a little higher because it's hard to press the whole game. So I get that.
Good players.
But yeah, I got to admit a note of the good Munson chance as well at 1-0, which could have changed the game. But no, I mean it's Liverpool quietly doing the business again in not in perfect shape, and again that's been the story of the big boys in the Premier League so far this season.
I'm going to mention a couple of players, Robert, in the Burnley team who've kind of impressed me, super impressed me. Wilson Odebears, a player who's come in, I think French, 19-year-old, playing on the left-hand side. Koleosho was there. He's got a bit of something, him, Rob. Every time I see him, he does something that excites me a little bit. He looks like he can get to the byline. He's clever footballer, nice combinations. So he's one, and obviously with the Koleoshos, I was thinking Amdouni, Foster. You know, these are bases of 5 or 6 good young footballers there. I almost feel like, you know, they need a little bit more help around them and a little bit more maybe know-how, as you say, to be competitive against the better teams. But the other player I'm going to mention, he's actually going to be my underappreciated performer of the weekend, and I wanted to go for someone it's not a Big Six team, he's not a glamour club in some respects, as you'd say, but James Trafford, my friend, 21-year-old goalkeeper for Burnley, was a former Man City youngster. Went on loan to the likes of Bolton, was playing in League One, played in their Team of the Year. Got a sort of somewhere around about a $20 million move from to Burnley, where he's signed now. I was just doing a little bit of research on. I saw a lovely line where he said, "I was a long, skinny boy at Bolton, and now I've turned into a long, skinny man at Burnley." And it's really interesting because we were laughing about him, saying, he's one of them, needs to maybe put a little bit of a bulk on, just put a pound or two on so he can deal with the congestion that is, set pieces in the Premier League. But I've got to be honest, Rob, he's played in all the young England from under 16 to 21s. What I see of him, I like of him. He's agile. He's on his toes. He's made a couple of mistakes that he'll learn from. He's a good age. I just think there's a decent goalkeeper in there, and he's one of them that I think will learn from his experience in the Premier League, and could be one of those if Burnley were to go down. Somebody might decide, you know what, we might take him and keep him with us in the Premier League.
That's a good shout, Rob, and I think that's exactly what could happen as well. He's 6'6", by the way, and that's where he's 6'6" goalkeeper. And I'll just quickly tell a quick story of Mark Schwarzer, a goalkeeper that I was with at Middlesbrough, went on to have a great career. Mark Schwarzer was at Chelsea and Fulham, and and he first came to our club, and he was the same thing, very tall and lean. And the first thing, I think it was Paul Barron, our goalkeeping coach, the first thing he did was drag him into the gym. Well, I'd say dragging's probably the wrong word, but he worked him a lot in terms of weights, Rob. And and all of a sudden, Mark Schwarzer went from kind of a lanky kid to this shoulders and arms and chest and a big, strong goalkeeper. You add the height to that, the physicality inside the penalty box. It makes a huge difference when people are around you, just to be able to lean into people and shove them out the way and come and... It made a big difference, and every time now, I think we saw it with De Gea a little bit, Rob. I think he bulked up a little bit when he first came to Man United. He was a little bit slight, and I think James Trafford would benefit. I'm sure it won't affect his goalkeeping important stuff separately, but I think it would really make a difference. That height with some muscular size, I think could take him to a new level. We'll see if that happens, but I think it's a very good shout, Rob. And this goes in the category of underappreciated / one to watch, and I think it's a good shout. There's been plenty of games where he's made some really good saves for Burnley. Yeah, good shout, mate.
Good shout. Okay, my friend, let's move it on to one of the big stories of this match week. Manchester United playing Aston Villa. United coming off a defeat against West Ham, and a little bit of spotlight on Erik ten Hag. Ineos were in town. The deal had gone through. If we knew one or two of the staff of that, Jim Ratcliffe wasn't available, but under the watchful eye, I kind of thought Ineos absolutely, this game encompassed what they've bought. They've bought at times a team that can be horrible, and then at times a team that can just excite you, Rob, and you can see all that's good about United and what stature this club can have and could be. And it was a classic game of two halves, but where do we start on Man United and like the overview of what Ineos saw, what Ineos might be able to do?
Okay, so again, I'll try and be brief because there's a lot of things to get through here. I think you're right, Rob, in terms of that in 90 minutes that they basically see what Manchester United are in the first half, really inconsistent, uncertain with their build-up play, trying to play out from the back because that's the way they want to play, got into trouble, go behind, and then Man United of what they can be in the second half, Rob. And I said afterwards that, in some ways it's easier to play with nothing to lose. You're 2-0 down. My goodness, we've got to have a go now. And we saw that, and it played out tremendously well. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that, he has changed the team lots and lots and lots and lots, and different people have been in kind of like the favourites, if not favourites, but on his first team picks, and he changes again and goes to somebody else. For me, in my opinion, and he's shown it now, Alejandro Garnacho is a special talent for me, Rob, and I said it afterwards. He is the potential to be a brilliant United winger scorer for many, many seasons. He has literally shown that he can do well and score on the right. Marcus Rashford, he is what he is. Sometimes he's amazing. Sometimes he struggles. Is better, in my opinion, as a left forward. So those two wide players, that's their best spots. Please stick with it for a little bit. Bruno Fernandes is an excellent number 10. If you want to rely on him, even as a number 8, getting back and helping out midfield, I'm not sure he wants to do it. I'm not sure he's very good at doing it. So that 3 behind the 1, and we'll get to Rasmus Hojlund, Rob, just makes it pretty simple for me. You have your double pivot, your 2 number 6s, you let Bruno do his thing there, and you figure out the defensive line and those injured players to come back into it. But that, is the way forward. I lost my train of thought now. Yeah, in terms of that's how they should do it. Now, in how they go forward from now, Rob, I am not confident this can continue. And it seems pretty harsh when you watch that comeback and the emotion and Rasmus Hojlund's goal I saw on social media, Rob. I saw like some people will video from a different angle and a guy in the crowd. Hojlund slides over. The absolute almost emotional response from Rasmus Hojlund was powerful. Guy, he was nearly in tears.
Incredible, wasn't it?
For what it felt like to score that goal.
The same thing.
And I think he's got. I think he has got
which is important.
Future.
Yeah,
I agree. Can he be the man? I mean, I know it's early yet, but should Manchester United look to buy another striker, or are you going to keep trusting him and starting him?
Well, I think with him and with Rashford, who can go up top if need be. What you wouldn't want to do is hamper him. What you wouldn't want to do is push him too far down the pecking order that he feels like he's not going. He loses a bit of the confidence he's got. Yeah. We've seen goals in Champions League, Rob. We saw a really instinctive finish that got his goal in the Premier League. He's a young man that we know is going to... When I see him and Nicholas Jackson, there's a whole different level in those two, mate. And they're both young. They're both coming into the league. Hojlund's got a different feel around him. He rushes things a little bit. He's caught sometimes a bit indecisive, but he's a finisher. I don't see that in Jackson. So no, I don't disagree too much on what you say. As I was watching the game today, I thought I'll chuck this controversial statement out to Robbie Mustoe.
Like it.
Controversial statement right now where Manchester United are, because we don't know what we're going to get, as you say, and we've got the two halves. So I've got two angles on this one. Can't Manchester United be more like West Ham? Can't we hold a shape on the halfway line? Can't we be difficult to play against and then break with good players like Bruno, like Rashford, like Garnacho, like Hojlund? Because actually, when we do the football bit, we're not that good at it. We give the ball away. We don't look that comfortable. So I'm just saying, for now, for the next 2 years, or is it because we're Man United we can't do that? Is that the reason that we can't do it?
It's a good question. And I'd say, bring back Moyes. You want Moyes football? Bring back David Moyes. I think there's definitely something in that we don't want to be that team long term. That being said, Erik ten Hag did say, I think it was pre-season, that he wants Man United to be the best transition team in the world. So as if this was asked of him a few weeks ago, and he said, we haven't got the players to be the silky, like you're saying. Yeah. So maybe he wants to be more attacking and fun to watch, but I think deep down he's like, I'm not sure we can do it, because when we try and build up and start that from the back line, we get bogged down in it. So, and of course, they've got the goalkeeper to try and do that, and Onana that can play with both feet. He can spray the ball around. So I think it's an interesting point, Rob. But I think longer term at Man United, that's not the answer, is it? It's not the answer to be reactive. That's what you're saying.
Longer term, no. But where we are now with this group, as we the next year, 18 months, and we build up to getting to what we want. The second point I had, and I was thinking, is it Brailsford who was sitting in the stand and one or two others, and they've got, so we can go on this, you've done a bit of research on the internet, but F1 business, cycling business, other football clubs. So I was kind of thinking, okay, if you're that a smart, clever, rich owner, and you've got other sporting businesses that do, is there any crossover in, what we see from Manchester United is abstract first half, and then, an incredible, intense second half where they have a go, a little bit more counter-attacking, but whole different feel and look to the players. Might there be something in some of the other businesses that you can bring to Manchester United? Might there be some guys who work with individuals in those other sporting businesses, cycling, let's say, a mindset, a performance, getting, visualization. I don't know, but I'm sure he's got a team of people behind some of these other groups. Could that be something that could be brought in? Could that be something Ten Hag is open to get a little bit more? I mean, how can Manchester United start the first half like they do and then start the second half like they do? Something's wrong. There's a bit of a missing piece there, is what I was trying to say. I was just trying to... I'm chucking it out there, mate.
No, I think it's a reasonable question, and I've got two angles on it. I think there is definitely, in those other sports, Rob, and what's the same with all sports, team or individual, sports psychology. So sports psychology is an area that they might have different people in different sports that are really great at working with those athletes that could come in and potentially help the players of Manchester United. The other thing, particularly with the cycling side of things, and Sir Dave Brailsford was really, really a kind of a cycling guru, I think, in Britain, as I understand. The nutrition part. I mean, maybe there's some advantage to gain from nutrition in that type of athlete, in a cyclist, that it really is about performance and training and nutrition. Maybe there's a bit of that. I mean, other than that, I mean, it's such the football side of things.
I mean, it's small detail and football.
Maybe there's something with those.
I just feel like, is it something they can come in and maybe change the outlook, maybe change the thought process of some of the players, and maybe take a little bit away from the manager in some respect, or work with the manager on something. Say the Jadon Sancho might be a great example, with a different set of people and maybe the psychologists and that. Might that been could we maybe resolve that in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that's flat out immature. The whole situation for me is immature, and I think, they're both to blame for me. The manager, the club, and Jadon Sancho. It's kind of like you've been a naughty boy, and until you say sorry, we're not gonna. I just think
you're on the naughty
just
step.
Speak it, chat it out, get together in a room, let's chat it out, and try and come to some agreement where it's better for the football club. At the end of the day, that's what they're both there for, and try and come to some conclusion on that. But we'll see, Rob. We'll see. Maybe the structure, another thing that they might, maybe sporting structure of directors and I don't know, different organisations within a professional sport or a club or whatever might help in terms of organising. I think we all know that they are going to take a bit of time to assess all parts of the sporting side of the club. It's exactly what they need, and I think they will go about it diligently and slowly but surely, improve. I mean, the recruitment probably is the biggest thing, but we'll see. We'll see. I do want to quickly talk about Aston Villa, Rob, on the offside line deal, because I thought we saw in the second half a way to nullify the crazy high line, very effective offside trap of Aston Villa, and I'll try and briefly explain it, Rob. So first half, Aston Villa really what they like is for teams to try and build up, okay? So Villa get in their set positions, right? All the defenders are in a line. They can see everything in front of them, and then they play this high line. They look left and right. They keep the line. They get the offsides. The way that Man United broke that was basically the intense pressing of Aston Villa. So by pressing the players all over, then Villa were never in a situation where they could look across, there go United, trying to go from one side to the other side, getting the ball over the top, let's keep them offside. When they get impressed playing out, they have a chance to set. And I think the Rashford, where he crosses it in for Garnacho, that goal was a great example of that. You press them into making mistakes, and they ain't set. Their line can't be, and they got caught out a few times on that. So that's something that other teams might look at, Rob, is like, okay, when they're doing this and they can see the game in front of them comfortably, then that's hard to play against Villa. But when they get it, if we can force the turnovers, then they haven't got time to organise and keep that high line with the offsides all the time. So that for me, that was interesting of how United turned that game around into being offside all the time to, wow, Villa were really caught out and didn't know how to stop United in the second half. And it's not great for Villa, and we've praised Villa. That was a bit of a bloody nose, really, in the second half. They couldn't do a better job of stopping Man United's progression.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, as you say, it's hard to be too critical of him and his team of what they've done and how they've gone about things. And we saw a couple of lovely, innovative free kicks, didn't we, where we've seen the work that's done on the training ground. I think he'd be a bit disappointed that they lost a little bit of their intensity. They allowed United to dominate and get back in from 2-0 down. They could have gone, for any reason, gone on and got a third game, would have been done and dusted. But fair play to United. Yep. We didn't, we said question marks. We'll see what Ten Hag can do. He got a response. He got the 3 goals. He got Rasmus Hojlund with his first Premier League goal. And he got a win in front of his new owners. And we'll see, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season with United. And
Forest away next, mate. Forest away next, Rob, isn't it, for them?
Yeah. Well, they've got to turn up there, mate. You've got to absolutely turn up. That's the key.
Yep.
That's the absolute key. Let's move it to Goodison Park, my friend. Everybody was awaiting Man City's return from the Club World Cup. Another trophy, 5 trophies in the calendar year. But how was City going to be focused on Premier League, on closing the gap, on regaining that title that some are questioning whether they would? And in fairness, Rob, they went 1-0 down at half-time, made a few uncustomary errors in possession. John Stones had to come off with an injury, and I think we're both thinking, okay, this 45 minutes is going to tell us a bit about City. They get back into the game courtesy of a beautiful strike from Phil Foden. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a moment. And then a penalty that I want to just briefly talk about because it's made a bit of news. I saw Gallagher, their former referees, made some points about it as well. But then they were killed by, a Pickford and Branthwaite sort of errors. They played out at the back, and Bernardo Silva with a lovely, smart finish. So some quality in the end for City. I thought their attitude and their appetite to want to get things done in the second half stood through. It's not going to be ability that'll stop them winning the title. It's whether in any way focus and winning titles and trebles is going to affect them. But I don't get the sense that's going to happen, Rob. What was your takeaway from this game? And then we'll talk a little bit more about the detail of the penalty and maybe one or two players.
Yeah, we'll get to the penalty. Well, first off, first half, Everton, I thought absolutely perfect. Everton, first half, really good shape, behind the ball, pick their moments to press, because you can't press Man City all the time. And I know sometimes I want to see it. I keep saying, I want them to fly out the traps and get in the faces of Man City. It's just not possible for large chunks of the game. And I thought Everton did a really good job of picking their times to do it. They pressed and forced those areas in some ways, Rob, for that first goal. And then in the second half, Manchester City just looked... I don't know, they just looked back at it, really, and the quality was there to see. I kind of like the team that he picked, actually. I like Mateus Nunes, the kid they got from Wolverhampton Wanderers, Rob. He plays alongside Rodri as two players playing close together, though at times John Stones came into midfield. John Stones looks like he's got a nasty ankle injury in this game. He came off just before half-time, I think it was, wasn't it? But I think, we're going to say things like, there's City again, and here they go. I think if they look at their schedule going forward, they got a game again on Saturday or this weekend. After that, it's kind of when I think City can go weekend to weekend to weekend and not too many midweeks. They're recovering. They're working on the training ground. That's when they're going to get their head of steam up again.
Sheffield United at home, Newcastle away. Sheffield United at home, Newcastle away. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're going to go into a more of a normal schedule. Quality. Phil Foden, interesting what Pep said, Rob. He said, whilst we've got Earle and Haaland out, Phil Foden is an eye for goal. Simple as that. And he totally has. We all know that. So he wants him close to the goal, which means playing in the centre, number 10, in and around Julian Alvarez. Bernardo Silva is to the right-hand side and Grealish to the left. But of all those midfield players, Phil Foden, he is the scorer out of all of those. And I think it makes sense for him to play centrally. Wonderful, wonderful strike for the first goal. It's...
He was...
Go ahead, mate.
He was nearly my underappreciated performer of the week, by the way, Phil Foden. He was nearly... But I don't know if he's that underappreciated. But I tell you what, when he plays in that 10, Rob, and can dominate a game, he's 23 years of age.
Yeah, he's a special player. Yeah, he really is.
It's incredible.
Let's get on to the penalty, Rob, because that fired me up this weekend. I really, really have a problem with this one. And I'm going to say this first, Rob, and we did a kind of a quite a deep breakdown or a slow motion breakdown of this, and we basically showed that when the strike came in from Bowen, wasn't it? No, not Bowen. Who was it?
From Nathan Arke.
Was it when when he
turned and smashed it towards goal?
Onana's arms were absolutely normal. He's about to stretch over to try and put the block on. So when the ball was struck, he wasn't trying to do anything other than get to the ball. And then, of course, when you see the ball strike the arm is a little high. Totally justifiable in that action. I say justifiable because that is in the laws of the game. Is it justifiable? Is the position of his arms in the motion playing of that ball? Well, or attempt to. It was. And also, Rob, I can't say, I guess YouTubers, they can see, he didn't really make his body any bigger. The rule is like it says, is written, does he make his...
If anything, he made his body smaller.
Yeah, he kind of
put his arms in a bit.
The only thing that he did, Rob, this is my last point, is that his arms were higher than you might expect. There's nothing in the laws of the game to say that a defender's arms have got to be down. So they can be high, and it can be natural, and particularly on this one, because he would make himself bigger.
That's a natural action, Rob. That arm, if you look at his left foot first, is his left foot is stretching to block, like thinking the ball's going to come. So as you stretch your left foot out and you're going around, your right arm comes up for balance. It's a mechanic of the body. You can't leave your arm next to your body and stretch because you can't get anywhere. So your arm comes up naturally. It's a mechanical movement. It's not high. It's not towards the ball. The ball's a yard away from him being smashed at him.
He can't react.
I think Sean Dyche said it. He can't react. He can't get his hand out of the way. I mean, Sean Dyche said if he was a goalkeeper and he had reflex like that. I mean, he was spot on. And I heard Dermot Gallagher saying similar things today, basically saying this rules is making it more difficult for referees, and because of the law, the way they're written, you're going to get penalty kicks every time they're given.
Rob,
so we're down the same road. People don't think it's right, but we're going to get a penalty because that's the way it's been written.
The problem is this is all the problem is. There's a lack of understanding of what is a expected / natural position for players.
Body position.
That's a lack of understanding there. And that's what the law's been kind of simplified. Is it one, deliberate? Is he deliberately bringing his hand to the ball? Or number two, has he made his body unnaturally bigger in the expectation that his arm could get in the way?
The movement.
That's all it is. Those two things. Yeah. And if some of these that are given, like, wow, you think he's deliberately. So that's where the problem is: the understanding of what's expected and normal and natural, and what's I'm going to go and block the ball, and I'm spreading my arms out like that. I know what I'm doing here. We don't see many of them, Rob. So. Another one that we'll see if they try and clean it up again. It's the hardest thing at the moment for the laws, really is.
But it was a big moment in the game, Rob. It was a game changer because Alvarez scores and then Silva gets another goal. Just want to go back to the John Stones thing, Rob, because back to before the game, and that's only one clean sheet in 12 now for City, which is unlike them. Generally, when they're on these kind of runs, they generally can keep, clean sheets is a big part of that. And John Stones is running back with Beto towards his own goal. It's a situation he's got to defend, and Beto is clearly offside, and it's one of those, Rob, where it's allowed to play. Beto ends up challenging for the ball. Yep. Stones goes down, gets an ankle injury, and now could be out for certainly a few weeks, it would seem, based on what Pep said after the game. And Pep was mad at the time. We saw a couple of shots where he was sort of saying, get the flag up, because, we've talked about this. Players can get injured in those challenges that happen when the flag doesn't go up. And, to get John Stones back fit, and we know how important part he is, whether he's centre-back or dropping into midfield and making those overloads, and to have him missing on a situation that could have been avoided, really, because we could all see that Beto was off, and both players knew Beto was off, but Beto kept playing because the whistle doesn't go and the flag doesn't go up. It's just another one of those rules where you think, if it's that obvious, should we not just put the flag up? Yeah,
because what happens is John Stones has done a great job of playing him offside, right? So he's done that part well, and because the linesman's not sure, I've now got to double back. I've made my job harder because I'm further behind.
That.
So I've got to do a desperate challenge to try and put something right, which I think I've got right with the offside. So it's like a double whammy, really. Like, I did that bit well. Oh, I've got to go back because, I've got to make a challenge, and that's where he got injured. So, I agree. Again, I mean, a lot of these managers, Rob, they don't... Maybe some of the fans out there think that a lot of them make excuses. They talk a lot of sense, the managers. They've been around the game a long time, and most of the things that they say, and I think Pep said afterwards with Sean Dyche that he doesn't understand the rules at the moment, which can't be right. So it's another one where they're right. If you're pretty sure, put your flag up and let's stop the game there. And it's only a matter of time. And I think there's others that's happened in the same scenario, Rob, and there'll be other ones again when players are asked to do their job twice in some ways. Yeah.
But good result for City, good return back to the league, and as I said earlier this sort of season, just feel like the shadows kind of come over that top end of the table, and one or two people are looking over the shoulder, and I think can feel that the City is starting to get momentum. When you think Doku, KDB, and Haaland to come back into that group, I mean, starts looking a little bit scary again. Okay, my friend, let's move on to a few other results. Newcastle, desperate for a win at home to Notts Forest. I think most people would have said that Newcastle would get this done, although it's a tiring Newcastle making mistakes and defensive errors. But I don't think we saw a Forest 3-1 win, and I don't think we saw a Forest 3-1 win with a Chris Wood hat-trick.
It's a bit of an easy one. I got to say, a bit of a layup for my underappreciated performer. It is Chris Wood. I mean, Chris Wood hasn't really been first choice at Nottingham Forest. The other clubs that he's been at, he's sort of split opinion a little bit. He's a good striker. He's a steady old striker. He has a new manager. I think he's got three behind him, a little bit like Man United, Rob. I really like the Forest three behind him, which is on the right. Anthony Elanga. Gibbs White behind him as number 10, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. That's why the owner bought these players to play, I think, in those spots. And Steve Cooper did sometimes, didn't other times. So I like that. But Chris Wood, fair play to him. Fair play to him. I mean, what nice finishes as well, by the way. A little bit of class, a little bit of composure, the little dink over the top of the left foot, the little drag around the goalkeeper. I mean, really, really good performance. An easy one for underappreciated, because I think he has been in his career. But this was a reminder. I mean, to go there and to get a hat-trick at St James's Park, former Newcastle player, and not really be able to celebrate. He didn't want to celebrate in front of the fans. I mean, he enjoyed his time there, and he spoke well afterwards. Yeah. What? You're not having that, are you?
I couldn't have given the underappreciated without celebration. To get a hat-trick away at Newcastle for your new team, and you don't celebrate. And I know you had a year up at Newcastle, and I know you enjoyed it, and your family were there, and they looked after you well. Yeah. Come on, Chris.
I know.
Come on, my friend. I mean, hat-tricks are very hard to come by in the Premier League. You get one on Boxing Day against your former team. Celebrate with your teammates. Come on.
Yeah, it's good news for
three
for
lovely
Nuno.
Finishes. Yeah, great news for Nuno. And you think they got beat 3-2. Was it Bournemouth? Yeah, 3-2 with Bournemouth when Willy Bolly got sent off. Shouldn't have in that game. Might have got a point at least there and 3 out of Forest. But yeah, Nuno's getting things going. And things move on at football clubs. Steve Cooper was loved there, but listen, he's gone. And now it's about Nuno trying to make sure that Forest stay in the league. Let's move to the game today. Brighton Spurs.
Rob, before we move on.
We always thought there's going to...
Rob, sorry, mate. Sorry.
Yeah.
We just... Eddie Howe. There's a lot of talk.
Newcastle,
Anytime Newcastle, anytime something starts to, everybody starts, the ownership and the fans, should they expect more? I mean, to be fair, I read some stuff for the last couple of days, and they've got to be careful of financial fair play. It's not as though the club they have got a ton of money, the ownership, but it's not as though they can throw it all into the team and the club just yet. They've got to gradually increase their revenues so they don't make losses, etc., etc. But is there unfair scrutiny as soon as the results go again? Is that a bad run, to be fair, Eddie Howe? Is that a bad run of results?
Yeah, he has had a bad run.
He's had an awful injury list, which again he mentioned afterwards. There shouldn't be any pressure on Eddie Howe, Rob, should there, for a good few weeks?
No, I don't think so. Where maybe I slightly disagree. Should there be scrutiny? I think there will be scrutiny because they're now seen as one of the big seven, if that's the right phrase, and the size of the club and the profile of the club means that there will be scrutiny, and I kind of think scrutiny is okay. But to be calling for his job and what he's done in the Champions League, and I know things have not gone well in the last few weeks, and before the game I just said maybe Forest might get him at a good time because just feel a little bit of the energy's gone out of the building.
Yeah.
But I believe in Eddie. I think what he's done, I believe in the players. I think the window might be important. Tonali has been a big loss for him, Rob, one that you could never have thought of with the betting scandal, and he's missing pretty much the rest of the season. So a player who he's brought in, who he wanted to control the game and the tempo and be an integral part of it, and some of the other injuries, muscle injuries that they keep picking up. It's difficult, but Eddie's got to get through this, and I'm sure the times when he was out of football, he thought about the good times and when things weren't going well and how he's got to react. And I don't think the ownership, and we've watched a couple of programs, we've read a little bit of stuff about the ownership. I don't think they're going to be quick hire and fire guys. I think they'll give him the time to try and put this right and set things up for next season.
Totally agree. I think we'll give him the job he's done, and them being apparently ahead of schedule. This is the first real blip, and he has had a really, really big injury list. Anyway, let's move on to anything else, really, Rob, that catches your eye. A few games that we haven't really talked about as yet. Brighton 4, Tottenham 2, Chelsea, and I'll come back to you, Rob, whichever one you want to hit in a second. Brighton 4, Tottenham 2, Chelsea 2, Crystal Palace 1, Sheffield United 2, Luton Town 3, and Brentford 1 for 4 goals for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Great win away from home for Wolves, and Gary O'Neill still doing a great job. What do you want to hit on those remaining games?
Let me take Luton United, my friend.
Right.
Back-to-back wins in the Premier League with 2-1 down, 2 own goals from Sheffield United in a huge game down at the bottom of the table. And Rob Edwards, in a difficult couple of weeks with Tom Lockyer, he's captain, having a cardiac arrest, and the emotional drain that had on the football club, and getting players going, and getting Townsend and Ross Barkley and the players. For a young manager who his first go in the Premier League with this group of players and this team, and they're still fighting, mate. They ain't out of it. They're starting to make it look a lot more competitive down there. So many people had already said, well, Luton will be gone, and we didn't see some early results, and people were already writing them off. Just shows we're halfway through, and they're getting used to things, and they could maybe pick 1 or 2 up in the window. They've got a nice kind of camaraderie and team spirit building. And there's still life in Luton Town. Don't you worry about that.
One more game as well, which I forgot to mention. Bournemouth did beat Fulham 3-0 as well. That was on Boxing Day, wasn't it? Back on Boxing Day. I think the one that stands out for me as well from that list is Brighton. It's Brighton again. Brighton 4, Tottenham 2. Yeah. I mean, I think we knew there was going to be goals, Rob, in the game, and it's one of those where there's 2 games going on at the same time. It was difficult to get a really good sense of it. But Brighton's kind of goal-scoring feat. I know it's only Tottenham, and I know that they got problems defensively, but it is. Yeah. I mean, João Pedro, Rob. João Pedro, right? And it's a good example. This is such a good example of a football club, Brighton. Everybody knows João Pedro. He came in the Premier League a little bit with Watford. He was always available, talented, Brazilian, 22 years of age. They spent a record fee on this guy. I can't think what it was now. It's 32. I think it was $30-something million for João Pedro. And he looks really, really good in this team. That's such a good example of everybody wants a striker that can score goals in the Premier League. And everyone's, well, where are they? Where can we get one? Well, if you look hard enough, and if you study the numbers enough, and you go and watch a player enough, and you do your research on him, João Pedro looks like a steal. A steal where they are yet again going to make a lot of money on by buying somebody from different places that others aren't looking so closely, and developing him, coaching him, basically spotting the talent initially. And they're going to now have another asset of whether Buonanotte and everybody else, and Sisso's to come back from injury, Mitoma's injured. It's such a. They haven't got a big squad, Rob. They're all playing. The 7 signings that came in the summer, Rob, have had a big impact on. They don't waste anything. They don't waste any money. Any money they spend, and maybe there is a couple of examples out there. I don't know, because all the summer signings in the 7 are all playing. All the players on the squad have all added minutes. It's a remarkable achievement by this club right now, the way they run, the way they coach, the way they recruit. And what a stunning victory against a Spurs side that aren't at full strength, but still were very dangerous opponents. Brighton's and De Zerbi, again, just continue to amaze me.
Rob, that you're saying that you're saying, a Premier League top 8 club, club record, 30-odd million. Oh, 30-odd million. I mean, how much is wasted on hundreds of millions? We see this one and that one, and this, can't play. And I remember when we were talking to one or two of the backroom staff in the summer series when we were away, and they talk a lot about profile, Rob, and that João Pedro's profile is perfect for what they want. So they've obviously got this sheet that you need the tick list, and you need to be this and that and this age, and have these numbers and whatever. And that's the golden nugget. That's the bit that other teams need to get and understand what they're seeing and what value for money. But you're right, and with Brighton, people have the days. It's João Pedro's day, then it's Evan Ferguson's day, then Matoma has a day, and Adingra has a day, and it's all these different talents who can all have a day, as well as the team playing, the good football and make it work. And it's a brilliant story. Brighton continues to be,
and they lost their best players.
Story, but
McAllister and Moises Caicedo.
It's sold. Yeah.
Right, the last game, Rob. Should we just hit the last game? I think we should just quickly talk about is Chelsea. Chelsea get a victory, 2-1 against Crystal Palace. Mudryk scored.
2-1. Late
Elise,
penalty,
and then the late penalty for Madueke. That it was a penalty. I think. I feel the challenge was right towards the edge of the box. But Chelsea's are they? Any different thoughts on Chelsea, Rob, and some of these players?
I just think it's still got a lot of working out to do, Rob. I still think it's got a lot of maturity to come. And soon, once he starts to get people back, a bit like you've said with Manchester United, he's got to start finding out what's his team, Rob. What's his best look going to be, and who are those players? Who's his centre backs? Who's he holding midfield to? I think Lavia's might be out with another injury, or something. Was getting close to it, and then missing out after he's had the run. And Kunku coming back, looks
positive.
Good bit. Looks like he's going to be better for him. He's looks sharp and lively around the penalty box. But I think it's a time thing. I think Chelsea fans are going to have to be patient, and they have to wait and see. And I think, as I said, before, this time next year we'll know where Chelsea are and whether this project's going in the right way that Pochettino wants it to go. Really interesting, Rob, though. There's a little bit swirling around with Roy Hodgson, and that maybe, this talk, what if he doesn't win at the weekend against Brentford? His job could be in jeopardy, Roy's come back the saviour after the Patrick Vieira and have the team scoring, but just seemed like this year's never quite got that run of games going. And a little surprised that news like that will be coming out of Palace, because I know how they kind of like to keep their business in-house and deal with things in a different way.
Yeah, I think now Eze and Elise are fit again, Rob. I think now is a really important period for him. He's got to find some results now, because you can say that without Eze and without Elise, of course, Zaha left the football club, Odsonne Edouard's injured again. You can understand a little bit of a poor run, given some of your best players out. But now they're back again. Now it's on, because they're not far from the relegation spots. What are they? 18. They're three points away from relegation spots. And when you've got somebody like Steve Cooper, that there's talk of in the past that Steve Parish and the football club are keen on Steve Cooper. I think I'm hearing like there could be some disagreement about who the next manager's going to be and when that should be. So I think it's just a really important period now of games for Palace and Roy Hodgson to get his team going, because I think they're not playing awfully.
No.
But now is the time to get some results for Roy Hodgson, absolutely.
Should be better with this group of players. You look through Gay and Anderson and as you say, Elise and Eze back in the team. Yeah. There's more quality than what we're seeing. But listen, knowing Roy, he'll put a run of games together, he'll survive and he'll smile on and he'll get to the end of the season. But a little bit of pressure as Palace need to get some results. Okay, my friend, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for this week, as Man City came back after winning the Club World Cup away on Friday night. They're back in the Premier League and look like they're going to be the team to beat again, while at the bottom end of the table, could be 7, could be 8 teams who get caught in a relegation dogfight. 2024 is going to be a really interesting time for the Premier League at both ends of the table. Look out for our next podcast. That's on Tuesday. That's January the 2nd, when we'll look back at match week 20 as we head into the second half of this fascinating season. But for now, I'm Earle, he's Mustoe, together with the two Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy, have a happy new year. If we don't speak to you before then, it's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Happy New Year. Good night.
Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.